The renowned theorist Miles Zola once remarked that a writer's works can make readers laugh and cry, but what is important is that they always stimulate deep thinking. Guy de Maupassant's novel A Life, by the master of short stories and the great French realist critic, is a perfect example of this observation. The protagonist of the story is Jeanne, a woman born with a silver spoon in her mouth, having every condition to achieve complete happiness. Her family is not only wealthy, but also loving, and Jeanne herself is a kind and gentle person, living a life without any pretense. However, Jeanne's life leads to a tragic end. What causes someone like her to be unable to find happiness? After reading this book, you will realize that life does not favor anyone specifically. Each of us, like Jeanne, has often missed opportunities for happiness because we have not maintained our minimum personal boundaries. Welcome to Inspire Reads, where we share knowledge and personal growth through great books. Hi, I'm Jenna. Don't forget to follow the great books in the description. Today, let's explore the question, why is it that some people, no matter how they live, cannot find happiness? Through Guy de Maupassant's famous novel, A Life. Let's dive in. Unhappiness arises from not knowing how to maintain one's minimum boundaries. In everyone's eyes, Jeanne is one of the luckiest girls. Born into a wealthy, noble family, cherished by her parents from a young age, and inheriting a famous estate, Jeanne lived a comfortable life until she was 17, when she began to dream of an ideal prince. A young nobleman named Julien, tall and sophisticated, is introduced to Jeanne. From the first glance, Jeanne falls in love, and Julien quickly plans a romantic proposal. Their marriage unfolds like a fairy tale, and Jeanne feels like the luckiest person. But soon, Julien reveals his true nature, becoming a cold and selfish man, exploiting Jeanne's ignorance to seize her estate. Julien no longer maintains the dignity of a nobleman and becomes rude and cruel. One day, Julien randomly beats a servant and blames Jeanne's parents for not managing the servants properly. Her parents, infuriated, leave the mansion in the night. A great thinker once warned that marrying hastily is like building a house on a weak foundation. Though it may look grand on the outside, it hides the risk of collapse at any moment. Jeanne did not realize that when loving someone, appearances and talents are just the tip of the iceberg. What is most important is character. The foundation of any lasting relationship depends on the character of the person. There's a famous saying, to maintain a long-term relationship, we must adhere to the minimum character boundaries. This means that before entering any relationship, whether it is love or friendship, we need to define the basic principles we can accept. If the other person crosses these principles, we need to know when to stop. Suffering arises from a lack of awareness of boundaries. If you easily lower your personal principles, the one who suffers in the end will only be yourself. Just like Jeanne's family, even though they saw Julien's true nature, they let things slide. Jeanne only knew how to endure and comfort herself with phrases like stay calm, endure, forget it. When she discovered Julien's affair with the maid Rosalie, she wanted to cut ties, but once again, her resolve to maintain her boundaries was shaken. Her father advised her to overlook it because she was pregnant, and Julien was accepted again. Schopenhauer once said that luck and misfortune each have their reasons. Happiness and suffering are not only a matter of fate, but also stem from our principles and attitudes towards life. Those who cannot find happiness are those who have abandoned their life principles from the start. Tolerance without limits is a disaster. Shortly after her son Bob was born, his father, Julien, was pushed off a cliff by a count and met a tragic end due to his affair with the count's wife. After Julien's death, Jeanne, Bob's mother, poured all her love and leniency into her only son. She indulged Bob unconditionally, overlooking all his actions. Bob was lazy, refused to study, and didn't start school until he was 10, but even by the age of 20, he hadn't graduated. He often skipped classes, got involved in gambling, and was eventually caught in a brothel. However, Jeanne turned a blind eye to it all. She even bought Bob a boat so he could relax at sea, further spoiling him. It's often said, unlimited tolerance is humanity's greatest crime. Indeed, while living requires tolerance, if that tolerance has no boundaries, it merely invites others to sink deeper into their mistakes. Jeanne's excessive coddling pushed her son down the wrong path. ultimately dragging the entire family into a spiral of destruction. When Bob finally escaped his mother's control, he ran away with a woman to London and began sending letters threatening Jeannie that he would commit suicide if he wasn't provided with money. What started as demands for a few thousand escalated to hundreds of thousands, until Jean was forced to mortgage the family estate to meet her son's demands. Jean's father, overwhelmed with anger, passed away. In the end, Jean had to leave her beloved estate and move to a small house in the village, leading the simple life of a peasant. Instead of blaming the downfall of the family on a rebellious child, we should recognize that it was Jean's boundless tolerance that caused the ruin. If we continuously excuse selfishness, greed, deceit, and cruelty, that tolerance becomes nothing more than an invitation to push them further into an abyss. Gibran once said, "Humans have two hearts, one full of blood and the other full of tolerance, but we must know that tolerance has its limits or we will be endlessly hurt." Happiness is not for those who refuse to grow. Jean, missing her son, traveled to London alone but felt completely lost in the city. She didn't know how to book a hotel, was afraid to ask for directions, and was bewildered by strangers. Unable to find her son, she returned to the village in disappointment. From then on, Jean isolated herself at home, not interacting with anyone, spending her days staring blankly out the window in the morning and sitting by the fireplace all day. Jean refused to grow throughout her life. In hindsight, fate was very fair to her. Even after falling into the abyss, she had 3 opportunities to change and save herself. But she rejected them all. The first time, after the honeymoon, when she discovered Julian's true nature, she should have taken control of the assets and thrown him out, but she chose to endure. The second time, after Julian's death, she could have started a new life, but instead relied entirely on her son. The third time, when her son went astray, despite being advised not to be overly protective, she continued to excuse him, leading to the downfall of the entire family. Are there many weak people like Jeannie in this life? Indeed there are, and we also have some resemblance to Jean. Ask yourself, how many times have we recognized mistakes but continued to repeat them? How many times have we overlooked our personal boundaries, lived without principles to tolerate, and loved blindly? How many times have we placed our joy in unrealistic expectations of others? How many times have we lacked the courage to let go at the right moment? And how many times have we refused to change, rejecting maturity when life sends us lessons and opportunities? The greatest adversary is not the ups and downs of fate, but ourselves. If we refuse to change, no amount of help, money, or opportunity will keep us from wandering in the labyrinth of life and ending in suffering. Dr. M. Scott Peck, author of The Road Less Traveled, said that people may refuse anything, but they should never refuse to mature. Refusing to change is avoiding the issue and running away from pain. Many people try to avoid difficulties, making mistakes without daring to confront them, and this is the cause of our inability to find happiness. Suffering is not frightening, but refusing to mature is the real suffering. I hope that both you and I have enough wisdom to hold happiness in our hands. Thank you for listening. If you found this video helpful, please share it with those in need. Don't forget to support us by liking, subscribing, and turning on notifications so you won't miss our latest videos. Inspire Reads is always here to accompany you on the journey of personal growth every day. See you in next video.